America, join us on this journey through the sports world. We got a lot going on in the NFL. The Shield is busy. So we're going to get this started like, yes, you are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. And we brawling for it all down in Greenville, South Carolina. Brothers jumping through the crowd to get onto the court as if they're going to beat up women on national TV. What are we doing? We're going to get into that. Like I said, NFL free agency is alive and well. So, with that being said, let me stop being rude. Let me introduce the even kill, VA born, New Jerusalem's own, representing in the house from T-Neck to Millville and everything in between. Brick City got that pep. You know what I'm saying? He is Air Force veteran, dedicated father, nonprofit leader, aka the man. Don't bring feelings to a fat fight.
Don't do it.
He is the one and only Mr. Logical. And I am down here in the Alamo, come and take it. Pause. You know what I'm saying? Statistician. Unorthodox. Go so left, you thought I was southpaw. I am 2'5". And of course, when we start this show off, we started off with a little something called Get It Off My Chest. So now we're going to take it there. So, Mr. Logical, I was driving, coming all the way back from Wyoming, 15 hours. And then I started hearing all these people saying, it's going down, South Carolina and LSU. And of course, I thought they were talking about the men, first of all. You know what I mean? But then it was like, I had to pull over to get some gas. So I had to do my due diligence. And I saw a dude jump through the crowd. What we doing, bro?
I was sitting at the bar, and it was Drake and Indiana State on TV. And then I heard I had the LSU South Carolina game on the other one. And when I saw the dude with the hat on in the scuffle, I was like, did he come off the bench? Because it was some people, like there was some guys, some graduate assistants, some assistant coaches, even though it's a female team, I'm pretty sure there's male employees. And I'm looking, I'm like, so they showed the replay. He jumped over the banister out of the stands, then over the press table just to stand there behind this girl. I think he realized that 6'8", male or female, is big. Because when he got close, like granted, I'm not a proponent of violence or whatever, but in that, when you make that kind of move to jump that many railings and essentially jump yourself right in the handcuffs, you're punching something.
Right.
And he got there and looked and was like, somebody hold me back.
He saw Camila and he was like,
He literally jumped up, got down there and was like, he looked for somebody to hold him back. He didn't go check his sister. He didn't go check on any LSU Lady Tigers. He just was like, yeah, somebody hold me back. And then he just literally got held back. I'm like, you did all that just to get handcuffed? And on top of that, it's like, your sister got pushed by a girl playing basketball. She has teammates. They're also female. If they was going to box it out, let them box it out.
You ain't going to box it out on national TV with them.
And then especially when you realize you're a foot shorter than the girl that you ran up on. You look like you can see in his eyes like,
Besides the fact that, like, she had already shown you what it was knocking Flo J down. You know what
Yo,
I'm saying?
she hit her like Ed Reed. She,
But
but at
but
the same time,
who
it's like
pissed
let
me
him
off
box it
though?
out.
You know who pissed me off though?
The LSU head coach.
The LSU head coach Kim
How
Mulkey.
did I know that?
You know what I'm saying? Because we are adults. You know what I'm saying? We're the old men in the room now. So, back in our 20s, we probably react the way Camila Cardoso did. Cardoso. We probably react the way that she did. We knock somebody on their ass to protect our teammate. But as the adult in the room, step one is diffuse the situation.
Man, she put gasoline on it.
You know what I'm saying? Step two is talk to your team and take notes from head coach Don Staley, because Don Staley started off the whole statement with an apology. And I'm not even necessarily saying that an apology is necessary. That's just how classy Don Staley is. But what you can't do is say, quote, I wish she would have pushed Angel Reese since they're the same side. Oh, you mean the Angel Reese that was pulling hair when she was supposed to be blocking out on a free throw? That Angel Reese? Yeah, maybe she should have pushed Angel Reese.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'll play my 2-5. I was watching that game. Probably, like I said, I probably watched the third and fourth quarter. It was very physical. Not a lot of calls. Like it was chippy, it was pushy, it was very physical. Angel Reese was getting pushed around pretty much every time she was in a post. She was getting pushed or slapped.
Yeah,
probably every time I looked up on each end, it was pretty physical. But I noticed on the LSU end, they were getting hit a lot, and they weren't. I was looking like, okay, there's no call. Well, okay, they're letting them play it out. And I'm like, no call again. Oh, 4 people on the floor. Like they were like LSU had a rebound. The girl would come grab the arm and the ball, get the ball. South Carolina's getting layups. I'm like, there's some fouls happening in this sequence. And it wasn't that many calls. So I think
this is the danger of the refs letting them play.
And then you have because what Flo J did was like she pushed the other girl because the girl was yelling in her face. Get out of my face. Right. It was a bump. It wasn't like she didn't run up on her to the point where she needed someone to be the team enforcer. And then when Shorty hit her with the Ed Reed blindside block, it was like, okay, this is over the top. But like I said, that third and fourth quarter, I want to say it was chippy, it was competitive, but there definitely was some moments on each end where the rest could have like, all right, bet, hey, coach, calm your players down, get a lot of contact, trying to let you play, but you're taking it too far. And that's what it ended to. But I saw something because, like I said, I was watching it, and I don't think the sound at the bar was playing that game. But I saw a clip later that said something along the lines of like so many players got ejected that South Carolina and LSU,
nobody on the bench.
their next game is the NCAA tournament, the first round. They're going in with like 7 players each.
They'll be fine.
Like there's some of their starters, but it's like 6 or 7 players.
They ain't gonna lose. They're not gonna lose to like Monmouth or somebody like that. I think that's another Jersey school. They're not gonna lose to them.
But like you still don't want to have because you don't want them to. Like I don't know. I just think that
you don't want injuries and things like that.
You don't want to go into a tournament with 7 players in the first because anything could happen.
Well, like so this is my question for you. This is my question for you. Because I struggle with this sometimes. I'm not saying that I want the days of Bill Laimbeer back. I'm not saying I want Kurt Rambis clotheslining somebody. But I do like a little chippiness in sports, just from the competitive standpoint. They're in the same conference. This was the SEC title game. They're very familiar with each other. I'm sure, that old statement, familiarity breeds contempt. But with that being said, do you think that with all the momentum that the women's game has built over the last year and a half, do you think that a moment like this hurts them in a way that people wouldn't view men basketball players?
No. I personally sometimes I like when I watch the game, I think like why are they sometimes these girls flex a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I think even the NBA players do it too much. Oh, that's not a foul. Oh, my bad.
Well,
Distracted.
it doesn't look like Denver's going to break their streak starting out down 22-5. But
Yeah, it's not good. But I don't think it'll hurt the women's game. I think the women's game has gotten a lot of momentum over the last couple of years because you have the white team in the Midwest that plays. You know, they have their all time scorer. She's shooting from the logo, and she has been for like the last 3 years. She's not like a flash in the pan.
right,
Then you have Angel Reese, LSU won the national championship game. You got the fiery coach. You got Don Staley wearing Gucci hoodies on the sideline. I think you have. It's the reverse of men's college basketball, where the women play 2, 3, 4 years. Haley Von Lith, you got Paige Beckers in UConn. You have these
yeah,
names,
and they're talking about she's coming back again next year.
so and they can play 3, 4 years, and it doesn't hurt their NBA, WNBA draft stock. A lot of them probably making more money off NIL deals and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of being the top, one of the top, not just top
Being
female
the big
athletes
woman
on
on
campus,
campus.
just
Yeah,
being like one of the bigger athletes on their campus because their stadiums are packed. Tennessee, when they play, packed. LSU packed. South Carolina packed.
UConn.
Iowa packed.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about like Nebraska volleyball, like they play their game at the football stadium. So the female college experience, as far as like their money and the opportunities and to be able to showcase, I think it all works. The men's game, they don't want a guy who's been a senior because and information is like, oh, if he was any good, he would have left as a junior. So
And
we
see,
don't
and that's the
we don't follow
problem.
a guy who's playing basketball 2, 3, 4 years.
And that's the problem with men's basketball within itself is that by the time they get to the NBA draft, they come so early that nobody knows who they are. So like you might have a player like last year, Cam Whitmore from Villanova. He went, I believe it was number 20 in the draft, which was way lower than he had been projected. But he missed half the season with an injury on top of he was a freshman. So unless you were watching Villanova basketball like a hawk or something, you had no idea who Cam Whitmore was. You know what I
Correct.
mean? And now he's in the NBA scoring 20 points, and you're like, who the hell is he? Versus, with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson when she came out. We know these ladies because we've seen them over the course of time. So with that being said, you got to put LSU and Iowa either in the same bracket or have it set up to where they can meet in the Final Four, right?
Either depends on what you want. Do you want the championship rematch or do you want the guarantee rematch? Like, do
South
I want
Carolina
the
against one of those two.
no? Like, do you want? I'm talking about LSU, Iowa. Do you want them 1 and 2 in the same bracket? So you're guaranteed to get your rematch. 'Cause more likely, them at 1 and 2 women's brackets. The women tend to play to their rankings. If
Mm-hmm.
they're ranked 2, they're not out here blowing the game to a 15 seed. I
Right.
think some of the men's seeds get missed. I think teams that probably could have been 7 or 8 seeds just end up as 14 and 15 just because they want to get a team like Wake Forest in, they want to
Right.
get Tennessee in, they want to get they want to get the big name schools in.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of it depends on what conference you play in, because like
And
when we
that's
look
how
at
you get a team like Indiana State or Drake. They might come into the thing like a 13 seed, but they'll
that's
have
why like
top
last
5
year,
seed
right?
talent. Yeah.
FAU was a 9 and made it to the Final Four, and everybody was like, "Why does 9 seed make a Final Four?" That 9 seed had more wins than anybody else in college basketball last year. They finished with 34 wins. They just happened to be in CUSA at the time, so they got a 9 seed. Whereas if they were in the Big East and did all the same stuff, they'd have probably been a 3.
Yeah, and that's so with the women's basketball, like a lot of the top programs play to their strengths. in the tournament. So 1 versus 2, you can put them in the same bracket, or you have it to where they're on opposite ends of the bracket and you. But it's so unlikely to make it back to national championship. I think off the top of my head, I can think of Butler went back to back for the men playing, but they didn't win. Florida won back to back for the men.
That was the last time.
And then I believe UConn with Breonna Stewart had a stretch. I think 3 out of 4. I think that one year when they had like 100-something wins in a row. But that's when I believe they lost to Notre Dame.
Well, that's why I say that. Like, I think
so
you
it
have
doesn't
to
happen that often.
I think
so
you
I would
have
set
to
it up
set
where
it
you
up.
get it in their bracket. Yeah.
Like, I think you have to set it up. I mean, obviously, you can't predict the outcomes in some ways, but I think you set it up where Iowa and LSU can meet in the Final Four, and then South Carolina's on the other side. So whoever wins that battle, if they get there between LSU and Iowa, the winner plays South Carolina undefeated for the national title. Because they do that.
Yeah.
Like I know back when Tyler Eulis was at Kentucky, they had Kentucky and Indiana in the same bracket. The year after, or a couple of years after Indiana hit the shot that they got in the commercials, Christian Watford hit the 3. We had Kentucky and Providence just last year. Kentucky being a 6, Providence an 11, because Bryce Hopkins left Kentucky to go to Providence. So they played in the first round. We've seen Kentucky and Louisville, and play each other in the Final Four. So there is some manipulation.
There is drama and
because it's entertainment at the end of the day. You can call it what ultimately, you want. It's entertainment.
It's not rigged. It's just entertainment. Calm down, people.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're headed. But as far as the chippiness, like, obviously you don't necessarily. I'm glad we didn't see just flat out punches being thrown. I
don't like the suspension rules.
Yeah,
that's the part of the chippiness that I don't like.
I don't like that either. But I do like the chippiness. It shows that they care, because we talk about, do these athletes even care? Does this generation even have the passion? And when they show it to us, we demonize them. So you know what I mean? So that's where, like,
why don't you protect your teammate when you come off the bench? Protect your teammate. Oh, now you suspended.
And that's why I say, like, I struggle with it, because I like chippiness. I like, for example, if in the NBA this year, if we get yet another Miami-Boston series, I want to see Jimmy Butler get up in Jason Tatum's face.
I want you to bring Grant Williams off the bench so he can hype Miami up.
Bring Grant Williams back. Because they have that familiarity. Like, I don't want 2 random dudes to just beef just because. But y'all got that history there. You know what I mean? Or if we could get, like, say, last year, Phoenix and the Clippers. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? Bump each other a couple times. Like, refs got to blow the whistle. You know what I mean? But, like, have that moment. You know what I mean? Because it is entertainment at the end of the day. So, but yeah, so moving on, you know what I mean? I understand that usually, I do the intro thing, but apparently you got something you want to say about free agency.
So the deal with free agency for me, and this always, like, blows my mind, is that I'm not sure if the GMs and teams really know, like, what the target is. And what's really best for the team. I think a lot of ego gets involved, and I just don't like the way that the GMs get to manipulate, the GMs, team presidents, owners, whatever, get to manipulate the entire narrative surrounding the players, knowing this happens every year. And then you get people like Tiki Barber bashing Saquon for going to Phillies. Like, think about what Saquon been through. Granted, I know they're playing the game. It's a sport. They're playing the kids' games for a king's ransom. But Saquon Barkley was going through a couple of years of negotiation, trying to get an extension, trying to get a good deal for the team that drafted him so he can be a giant. You wouldn't give him $11 million or 22 total $1 million over 2 years. That's what I think that was the report last year. They were offering, like, the franchise tag was 10-8. They were offering 10-1, and they were making it seem as if giving him the franchise tag at 10-8 was a better deal. He was like, yo, just give me 11 for 2 years.
Yeah, then I'm gonna have to
22.
do this all over again next year.
I'm about to do it all over again. They were like, and while they're going through all of that, they gave Daniel Jones 4 years, 160 when they weren't even hard pressed to have to do that. So the fact that now Philly comes through with the bag, they backed up the Brinks truck and wants to give him 37 million. Now you allow these pundits to say it's no loyalty to the team. Josh Jacobs said the same thing. He was like, you talk about the players not being loyal. What about the player who's literally, I don't want to just keep going off the injury thing, but they are risking security, because if I'm playing on a franchise tag and I'm playing a collision position, and you gave me the franchise tag because you didn't want to pay me, but now you want me to work hard to get another check when you might not have to pay me again. And then we come back to the table after I played under this, essentially a gamble, and I come back to the table and you're like, hey, how about we do it one more time? I'm like, are you kidding me? No person would take that in any job. If someone promised you a promotion and they say, come to this office, if you perform last year, next November when we're doing our fiscal year budgeting, see what we can do for you. You're like, you know what? I'll do it. And then you do everything, you up all your numbers and come back and they're like, listen, do it one more year and then maybe next year, because it's still no guarantee. It's like I'm in a collision sport with no guarantees. So like this team wants to give me a guarantee, like the little this boy in my DM think I'm pretty, like that. People start to hear that, and you gotta be cognizant of that. Like if you work for NBC and ESPN is like, listen, man, we'll give you your own show. We'll give you this staff, this staff, this staff, and this budget for clothes if that's a priority to you. And then you go back to NBC and they're like, how about you work under the same contract this year for the next couple of years? Meanwhile, we're going to hire other people and give them better deals than you. We're going to hire them from other places. So, like, that's what happens with these free agencies. So, like, the players have their right to say, hey, you're using my body and my talent and my energy and my effort to benefit the owner, benefit your own check, benefit all the sponsors. I just want you to secure me the same way they secure you, because ESPN doesn't have a 1 year lease with the NFL to play Monday Night Football. ABC, they don't have a, hey, come back next year, we'll see how the ratings look. There are 10-year deals for billions of dollars. I need a 3-year deal for $29 million. And you can't do that. This other team's going to give me 37, I'm out.
Yeah, and that's why I like free at last. Saquon was exactly who I had in mind when I came up with that, him and Josh Jacobs. Because Saquon has had seasons where he's been 35% of the Giants' offense. Last year he was 29, or the year before he was 29% of the Giants' offense. So at some point, they're going to run you into the ground until they feel you're not a commodity anymore, and then they'll just get rid of you. Even though, obviously last year he didn't meet his incentives,
which were and his incentives were, and that's the thing, the incentives were completely ridiculous. He wasn't going to hit those incentives. You knew he wasn't going to hit those
even
incentives.
with Daniel Jones.
It was 1,400 yards. You had to play X amount of games. It's
like Christian McCaffrey, as I've been saying, was the leading rusher this year, and he barely had over 1,400 yards.
And when Josh Jacobs was a leading rusher, they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah, he had 1,600. They want to pay him. So I was initially shocked by the Josh Jacobs thing until I actually sat down and thought about it. So when it first happened, my reaction was, Green Bay, what are you doing? You trying to recreate Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew, but like, which one is the Jones-Drew here? You know what I mean? Because there's a hierarchy there. But then obviously they ended up releasing Aaron Jones. He ended up in Minnesota for 1 year, $7 million. But as I was looking at this, I was like, hey, Josh Jacobs just turned 26 Super Bowl weekend. Aaron Jones will be 30 at some point during this season. You're resetting the clock with your quarterback that you just paid. So once I sat down and peeled it back, it made sense. But let me tell you something that doesn't make sense to me real quick.
Let's hear it.
The Carolina Panthers back in 2022 turned down 2 first rounders and a second rounder from the Rams to get Brian Burns. They basically gave him up for a 5th round pick yesterday. A 5th and a 6th, basically, or a 4th and a 5th. And I'm just stuck trying to figure out, is there a goal to be the Jets or the Commanders?
Yo, I posted this in one group that I was in earlier and try to articulate this best I can. The new wave of buying and selling teams with these. Yeah, I was explaining today at lunch. I was sitting at lunch. I was talking to someone who doesn't really know anything about sports. And I was kind of breaking it down like, okay, this is what's going on. You have people who are using sports franchises to like bolster their portfolio. Because no matter how you perform, the league is growing. So the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper, the owner, whatever he paid for the Panthers, it's almost going to be guaranteed when he sells it eventually the next couple of years because he's so terrible at it. Like the team is so bad. He's been awful. He's been making nothing but bad contracts, bad decisions. It culminated last year when he threw a drink on a fan and got fined $300,000 for it. He's going to sell it and turn some form of a profit.
I mean, we saw Michael Jordan with the Hornets.
But Michael Jordan was there for a while. This guy Tepper is going to the Brooklyn Nets. When they were going through their spell, they had 2 owners. They're on their 3rd. Like, I think they saw the team twice, and each person made money hand over fist. What's going to start happening in NFL? Denver, same thing. They're like, you know what? We're going to reshape how we do things. Like, no, you're not. You pay Russell Wilson, you pay the coach, you make them make music. You shouldn't be just because you have the $85 million available, putting your team in a handicap because it's keeping a bean. If the next quarterback you pick doesn't work out with Sean Payton, how many years you giving Sean Payton to figure it out? Because you got this dead money for the next couple of years. You're paying him rumored $20 million a year for 4 or 5 years. So are you just going to just shell out $80 million to fire him next year in some kind of buyout?
No.
So you're going to keep him. If it doesn't work out, now you're just stuck with him. Carolina, you drafted a quarterback that's undersized. You haven't gotten him a big target yet. What is your next season going to look like? It's going to look just as bad as last year when people could have bought a ticket to your game for $4. It's going to be like the Detroit, Minnesota was bad for a while, like these teams in the NBA because they were just being bought and sold. People were making money. These guys don't know or love football. Look at the Hunt. The Chiefs, even the Giants are tripping because like, yo, you guys have been a legacy franchise and you're making terrible moves.
I mean, they picked up Burns, so that was a good move, but they let McKinney go. They picked up Andrew Luck. I guess there's some kind of insurance in case Daniel Jones.
But the Daniel Jones move, like when everybody, I was talking about somebody in my office is like, I'm not a GM. But I know you have a franchise running back you're trying to sign, and he's begging for a couple of $1 million. And then you turn right around out of the blue and give the quarterback $40 million right in his face. It's like, you have to know that's not you. Saquon was done when that happened. He was never going back to the Giants unless they overpaid him.
Right.
I can guarantee you that was public disrespect. It's like, listen, this dude had one good year. You keep getting hurt, though. Like, when he keeps fumbling.
You know what they did? They pissed in his pocket and told him it was raining.
Facts.
That's what they did. You know what I mean?
And now people are like, oh, well, that's what teams do. And I think I don't know if it's the GM that just basically has the ear of the owner or the team president. I don't know who makes the final call, but I think it's a lot of people in place that are operating under the veil of arrogance and not anything that makes sense. Because, like I said, I don't know a single person that thought that Daniel Jones deal was a good deal.
So
I haven't met one person, non-Giants fans, regular people. Everybody was like, "This is a bad deal."
So now that we're talking about quarterbacks, I guess we gotta get into it. What you think? What you think?
My guy here, my guy number 8. I think he's gonna wear 12. It's two things. I'm gonna try to play both sides of the pillow here. It's a typical Atlanta move. You went conservative, somewhat safe when there was a quote unquote pause sexier option available, and they went safe. If you're going to go safe with the quarterback, I need something else that's a little bit more splash, a little bit more high risk, high reward. So if you're going to go 180 to the quarterback, then with that 8 pick, instead of bolstering the defense, I want you to get another playmaker, wide receiver. Whether it's Roma Dunze, you make a move and get Neighbors. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is slipping because teams are grabbing quarterbacks, I want you to go from 8 to 5. I need you to do something to where you can just kind of replicate that 2016 squad with Mohamed Sanu, Tevin, and Devontae, and Julio, and Hooper, and just we're going to go out here and try to put 30 points up. Because if you do that, the defense was good last year. They didn't get a lot of pressure, but the defense is good. From what I hear through all these draft pundits, you can get a lot of defensive backs, a lot of corners available. Maybe you get one in the second round, or maybe you still make a move. Like you said, you were talking about in our pre-meeting, they try to get Danielle Hunter. I know they're trying to bolster the edge. Eric Armstead's out there. I don't know what his number is,
Chase Young.
Maybe Chase Young. You throw some money at these guys, maybe a couple more million, and see if you can take that number 8 pick and make the offense so explosive that Kirk Cousins just has open wide receivers every pass play. Because you got the running back, the backfield set, but the power and speed of Algier and Bijan Robinson. So you have that. So I just say go all in with the offense, but the problem is they went conservative with Kurt. They're going to go conservative everywhere else, and then they're going to kind of hope to be in games. I want you up 24-10 with starting the fourth quarter, multiple games next season, because that rarely happened in the last few years.
Well, see, for me, it depends on how you want to look at it. You know, like just peeling it back, not trying to look at it from the standpoint of this is what a team did, looking at it from the standpoint of this is what this team did. So if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you came into last season with an unknown project at quarterback that you were hoping could be coached up into a serviceable quarterback. He was afraid to throw the ball, so you had to come off the bench with Heineke. Heineke made the offense look like it was probably supposed to look in some ways, but he's just not good enough to sustain that play over the course of a season. So when you're looking at Justin Fields, it's like, do I want to go back to another project? You know, even though the upside is definitely there.
Yeah.
Do I, you know, why I got this talent with Bijan, with Pitts, with London, you know, can I guarantee that Justin Fields can get them the ball consistently the way that we want him to? The answer to that question right now is no. The problem is Kirk Cousins is coming off of that Achilles injury. If the Achilles injury wasn't there, then I'm all for it 100%. Like, let's do this. You know, you got a veteran quarterback that does have playoff experience. Granted, he's 1-4 in the playoffs, but he does have playoff experience. He's a leader. We saw him with Jet in the way that Jet talks about him, basically saying, Minnesota, if Kirk ain't here, I don't want to be here. So he has credibility even coming off the injury. At the time that he got hurt this season, led the league in touchdown passes, beat San Francisco on Monday Night Football. So Kirk Cousins has shown the ability to do good things. He just hasn't quite reached the spectrum of great. But with the talent that Atlanta has on offense, maybe he doesn't have to be. Maybe they just need, just like the Giants, right? The Giants don't need Joe Montana. They just need better than Daniel Jones. Maybe that's where Atlanta is that we don't necessarily need Lamar Jackson. We just need a dude that's better than Desmond Ridder.
But that's the thing. But that's the problem. The problem is, at some point in your franchise history, you're gonna have an opportunity to put together a great, high-powered team on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. Houston's a prime example of that right now. They got C.J. Stroud this whole season. Next year, then they can sign an extension, and even then the extension doesn't kick in until after like the fourth year. I think going into his fifth year.
Yeah, they went and got Joe Mixon.
They went and got Joe Mixon. They got Danielle
Hunter. Yep, to go with Will Anderson.
I can see them making a move where if they have any money left and Minnesota and Justin Jefferson can't make music, I can see them doing it, not necessarily because it's Houston or what their cap situation is. It's just that is the let's go
mentality right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the mentality of every team that essentially gets a surprise at QB or a surprise QB coach combination is like, oh, this works. I'm going all in. We'll go with the Rams. When Stafford got there and they were like, oh, his time in Detroit was less than spectacular, but he's really slinging it. Oh, Jalen Ramsey available? Go get him.
Von Miller,
go get
Odell.
Him. Go get him.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna Instagram this locker room out and get this one chip, and that way, after we win the chip, you can get people to want to come there on a cheaper deal because it's like, we're coming off the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
We're primed to go back to back. So if you're a guy do you want $15 million a year from Seattle, or do you want 12.5 from LA, but we have a chance to go to the Super Bowl? Like that kind of leverage is what you get. I just think Atlanta just didn't put themselves in that position yet. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if you look,
what do you think about the Mooney pickup?
I'm not sure. Is he your 2? Is he your slot? If he's a slot guy, and you got Drake London. If he's a slot guy, and then like I said, if you plan on getting one of these big wide receivers, then I'm all for it. Because then it's like, okay, this is a 7-headed monster we're putting out there in offense between, getting Algier and Bijan out there. And then you got Pitts. I don't know. I'm not sure what the Jonnu Smith contract looks like. I don't know if he's still there, but if that's what you're going to do, I'm with it. But if you're not, if you're just going to go and get conservative and draft a DN and then draft a corner and
so the other thing,
go all in somewhere.
The other thing I like about the Kirk Cousins move is Atlanta's offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, was the quarterback's coach in LA under Kevin McConnell being the offensive coordinator. So I would assume, or like to assume at least, that there's going to be a similar system that Cousins is already comfortable with. So there's not going to be the learning curve potentially for the other players, but the quarterback will have it down. And, Kirk Cousins can mentor London and Pitts through the system as they get going, because even with Tampa winning the division, they were 9-8.
They were 9-8, and they needed to beat Carolina in the last game. I think they won that game 9-0.
9-0. Yeah. So Atlanta, for the time being, We'll see what Kirk Cousins looks like. But if you're Atlanta, you're thinking to yourselves, we just jumped the line. Tampa just lost Carlton Davis. They just lost Shaq Barrett. So it's not as if they're gaining in the same way that you are.
Yeah. New Orleans has Derek Carr, and it's like,
yeah, Jameis on to Cleveland.
Jameis went to Cleveland. Dennis Allen's probably been on a hot seat since Trump was president.
So is there any other moves that stood out to you during this early free agent cycle?
I wrote a couple down. I think probably if they had a quarterback, this would probably be one of the they're going for it moves. Christian Wilkins to the Raiders. Because now, who you doubling?
Ready for my stat?
Let's hear it.
All right. There are 7 players in the NFL this season on the defensive line that played 850 snaps. Wilkins and Crosby are 2 of them. They are also 2 of them that have played 17 games the last 3 seasons. So not only are they causing havoc out here, but they're out here to cause the havoc. Availability being the best ability. Yes. So, so the Raiders are coming regardless. They will get the quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields, whether, they do something in the draft.
But are they?
They brought in, I was going to say, they brought in Gardner Minshew.
For a conversation?
No, they signed him.
They signed Gardner?
They signed Gardner Minshew.
Okay, so they're straight then.
You know what I mean? They got a winner, baby. They got a winner. He's your bridge quarterback.
If you give him a shot, if you give him a real shot, granted, the problem is they got to beat Kansas City. Like you got to play them twice, and just losing them 2 times could just knock you out of the playoffs. Because, like I said, 9-8 makes the playoffs.
But the good news right now,
9-8 consistently been making the playoffs the last few years. So if you lose both games to Kansas City, is like that's the hard part, because you're almost booking like the whole conference, Denver, LA, and Las Vegas can basically. All of them can expect to lose both games at Kansas City. And it has been like that for the last few years. For the most part. Kansas City's probably gone 5-1. Or I think what was Mahomes, like 24-3?
He was like 27-3 at one point against the division. Yeah. But that's one of the moves that stood out to me is the Chargers picking up Gus Edwards, because he's that workhorse that Harbaugh likes. You pick up somebody else in the draft, maybe a Blake Corum, and you cooking with grease. But one thing that stood out to me is paging Mr. Jones down in Arlington. Free agency has started. In case you didn't know, free agency has started.
Derrick Henry should have been a Cowboy.
He should have been a Cowboy. Tony Pollard is no longer a Cowboy.
As soon as he made that press conference speech saying he enjoyed his time in Tennessee and he's looking to go forward,
you should have been tampering.
Somebody should have been in his Instagram talking about, hey man, come on to Dallas, let's work out a little bit.
All right.
Michael Parsons should have had him on the podcast. It should have been a done deal, because that's exactly what you need. That's that kind of a running back, man. Give him the money.
Yeah.
So
I agree. You ready for the list? So if you are Dallas, do not fret, I guess. Because, this isn't the 1980s. You don't need a Barry Sanders. You don't need a Emmitt Smith. So here's a list of running backs that I wrote down. And I want you to tell me which route the Cowboys should go. Because not only did Tony Pollard go to Tennessee, but Rico Dowdle's a free agent too. So, we'll see what he ends up doing. So now they're down to Deuce Vaughn, who's 3 inches shorter than me. So here we go. J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Alexander Madison, Chase Edmonds, Hilaire from Kansas City, Deontay Foreman, Cam Akers, and Kareem Hunt.
Hunt and Dowdle. Bring back your guy that's already there. Kareem Hunt.
See, I was thinking Akers and Dillon. Get your big back. He's not Zeke, obviously, but get your big back. Stay away from
I just
J.K.
like
Dobbins because he's on that all infirmary team.
I just like the way Kareem Hunt plays. I thought Cleveland did themselves a disservice by not trading him a couple years back. I think he would have probably tapped you a couple of seconds, maybe a second
Mm-hmm.
and a third, especially when you had Nick Chubb. And then they had what's the other guy, number 30, he came out against Dallas, had a big game.
Yeah.
They had a big offensive line. They
Not
had like
Ernest Johnson.
it
It
was
was
him.
Ernest Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in Jacksonville now.
So you had the line sustained, and he was like, "Yo, you could have gotten Kareem up," because people try to undervalue the running back position, but McCaffrey got 30 touches in the Super Bowl. He had 160 yards, and the critique of Kyle Shanahan in the wake of the loss was, why'd they start running the ball in the second half? So everyone
Right.
talks about how the value of the running back's going down, but all I heard was, how come he didn't run the ball? I'm like, he got 30 touches. He had 22 carries, 8 catches, 160 yards. But they were saying, why didn't you run the ball?
Right.
We talked about in multiple Super Bowls, or just we talked about with Detroit. You run the ball, run the clock, keep the lead. You need a guy that's going to threaten the defense. I don't know if Tony Pollard ever was going to be your solo act.
No.
Zeke was your goal line guy. Zeke had 12 touchdowns the year you released him and signed the guy that, granted, Tony Pollard was a good back, but you didn't keep him. See, like that's the kind of stuff that when I talk about these GMs not knowing what they're doing, is like, we're all looking at it, and I get it. I don't have the cap numbers, but what I do have is the results of your game the same way you do. So if you've seen that Pollard worked best from the 20 to the 20 and then the screen game as your change of pace back, why not just stick with that? Because I know a combination. Think about this. Remember Deuce McAllister and Reggie Bush?
Mm-hmm.
That combination, that's a 16-year-old combination. That on the field today still works. You scat back, you quick back, you back, you can hit with the stretch play, the reverse plays, the speed plays, or the power back on 3rd and 3. You don't have to throw every pass on 3rd and 3. Because if you think about like how many teams and how many times you see these coaches go for analytics, they always want to throw it. Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, the biggest plays of the game wasn't him throwing the ball. It was his 4 runs. He had one big throw, but just being able to control the line of scrimmage by running the ball. I mean, Bosa crashed down every time on McKinnon because the fake to the running back was so good. Not the double move with the wide receiver. We know that's showtime, but running the ball, controlling a lot of scrimmage. So having Derrick Henry in Dallas was like a no-brainer. Every person we talk about, like, oh yeah, he's going to Dallas. They're like Dallas or Baltimore.
So help me out with Jacksonville here. They went out and signed a wide receiver that couldn't even get the ball from a dude that wants to throw the ball 55 times a game, while franchising their Josh Allen, while still trying to bring back Calvin Ridley.
I mean, I think Jacksonville, they're in a winnable division, and I don't think they need to go all out.
They don't. They just need to be smarter.
They just need to make some moves. Maybe Ridley just is thinking like, yo, I want another opportunity. I want to get out. I want to go.
Well, New England's interested in him, from what I've heard. That's the only.
I want to be a clear-cut number 1. I want 140 targets a year. Like I don't know. I don't know. He wants 10 targets a game, 170. So maybe that's what he wants. Or maybe he wants a pay raise.
Well, somebody got to be out because they still have Zay Jones, they still have Christian Kirk, so somebody has to be out. Maybe it is him, but I think that I would probably keep him instead of bringing in Gabe Davis at this point. But that's just me. But while we were talking about our teams, just let me go ahead and say that the Commanders are not the Redskins. Like it looks as though in 2 days, Washington has done more than Daniel Snyder did during his whole 22, 23 year tenure. Starting off with Mr. Red Zone himself, Austin Eckler. Dan Quinn's trying to bring the band back together. Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong, who's had 21 sacks the last 3 seasons under Quinn. You went out and got Jeremy Chin, which I like a lot. Saying now I just need my corner, baby. I need my corner. We got Luvu from Carolina, who I like. I think they're going to try to use him. He's not obviously nowhere near Micah Parsons, but I think they're going to use him as that edge guy. Because he in pursuit, he's not the best. He's not the quickest, but he can get off the ball pretty well. So I like what Washington's done so far. But what do you think about Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh?
I called it. I said it last week. It made them absolutely. Because everybody else was talking this. Because everyone said Atlanta because Sierra's from Atlanta. I'm like, nah, I don't think that was going to work. But I mean, I was a little on board with him going to Atlanta because it was only going to be $1.2 million. He can go all and everywhere else. But I think it made the most sense for him to go to Pittsburgh because he's going to beat out Kenny Pickett. Everybody in the building can want Kenny Pickett to start. And then as soon as he comes out there with those gloves again in September trying to throw passes, it's going to be like, this dude's not – this isn't the move.
But I'm scared. Of
what?
Did Pittsburgh just get the Washington version of Donovan McNabb?
I don't think Russell Wilson is washed up. I
don't think he's washed up either, but I think he will be.
I don't think so. He has no injuries.
You got like a half a season, and you're going to start to see whatever decline hasn't happened yet start.
I'm going to give you, after 5 games, Pittsburgh's going to be 3-2. He's going to have about 16, 17 touchdown passes.
I think I like the Patrick Queen pickup more than I like the pickup of him.
Well, obviously, like I just think that the narrative surrounding Russell Wilson and his decline is being overblown.
Definitely.
Yeah, 20 touchdowns. Yeah, like 24 touchdowns passing. I think he ran in a few more, 8 interceptions, all while playing for a guy who every single week blamed everything on him, even when they won. Like, think about that. Like, I'm at work, we win, and the first thing you say, if we got an armband, we'll armband it. Like, the whole season, he treated Russell Wilson like, I wanted your mom, but I didn't want to be your stepdad. Know what I mean? So, like, when you moving out?
So who treated who treated the Bronco worse? Did Sean Payton treat Russell Wilson worse than Steve Smith treated Jerry Jeudy? Because I feel like Jerry Jeudy could have gotten more in that trade, but Steve Smith tanked his value too.
Well, I think the team, because like I said, I'm not a big fan of Sean Payton. This last season just added more. Like, it added more logs to that cabin fire of Sean Payton's tenure as a coach. It is probably one of the most overrated runs as a coach as far as value. He had, Deuce McAllister, Reggie Bush, Drew Brees, Marcus Colston, and they had a good run. But there were some sub-500 years in there, and the NFC South hasn't been good that often. Atlanta was a good team. Atlanta was a 10, 11-win team every once in a while, but it wasn't like they were out there going up against the New England Patriots in their AFC East domination run. They had some terrible years. They had some flash in the pan years. And then he goes to Denver, and all of a sudden, Russell Wilson's a problem after Nathaniel Hackett. After you came out and said, oh, this is probably one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the sport, and then you go out there and do worse, you gave up 70 points.
They did.
You gave up 10 touchdowns in one game.
Blew a 21-3 lead to the Commanders and Sam Howell at home.
So it's like, I like the Russell Wilson of Pittsburgh because they got Pickens, they got Freiermuth. Najee Harris has to start hitting the holes better. I don't know. I could see them making a wide receiver move in the draft.
They got the other back, Jalen Warren.
That's that Deuce McAllister, Reggie Bush combination. I think Russ can use that because I think I think Russ he's seen so much that if you just put him in position where he can make the plays the way he makes plays. So on that screen, just have him roll a little bit, maybe come back to the screen pass. Even the stuff behind the line of scrimmage, people are like, oh, he throws so many passes behind the line of scrimmage. Everyone does it. It's an easy play. It's basically an extended running play, and I get the ball in the hands of my playmaker early. Like, I don't know why teams like I don't know how a guy like Stephon Diggs goes like into the second quarter and he only has 2 targets. I'm like, yo, off the rip, I'm giving you the shovel pass. I'm getting the ball in your hands early. I'm gonna get you 8 to 12 yards. I'm gonna get you going. I'm gonna get you talking shit to the guy defending you, and we're gonna get this thing rolling. That's what the bubble screen does. Imagine Pickens getting that ball on the little bubble screen, a big target like that coming down the hill with the ball in his hand. You got the fans around you. The fans are loyal. They love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a dope city. I think they'll embrace him better than Sean Payton embraced him. Definitely Mike Tomlin's going to embrace him because he says, I run the coaching.
Did you see Philadelphia look dead into the camera with Booker T voice and say, San Francisco, we coming for you? Did you see that? Saquon, Bryce Huff brought CJ Gardner-Johnson back. You know, Philly trying to get that thing going again.
Now I just got to sit down with Sirianni and say, listen, man, you're the leader of a football team, not the president of a frat house. So let's act accordingly. You can still have your brashness and your bravado, but your quarterback shouldn't have to get you back to the mean, as 2-5 says. I like that move. I'm thinking if you have a kid that plays football and they play running back and they're kind of tall, just go ahead and them slide out and play wide receiver because Pittman and Indy got 3 years, 70 million, 46 guaranteed.
I don't know where that came from. Like, I would have damn sure probably, if that's what I had to pay him, his ass would have been good as franchised.
So they made that deal. I saw that. Looks like the going rate, excuse me, for running backs is $8 million a year. Once again,
I was shocked at what Derrick Henry got from Baltimore.
2 years, $16 million. That's the going rate.
30, but he's still second coming off the season where he's second in the league in rushing.
I don't know how many places. I think that magic number 30 probably scares some people off. But it's like, yo, if you think about what these teams are paying other positions, I don't think you have that much fear about paying a running back $12 million a year. It's like, yo, you're paying tackles $22 million a year. You're paying wide receivers where you got Pittman 3 years, $70 million.
It was like 23 and a half or so.
So that's 23 and some change. You got Tyreek Hill out here. Yes, he's a game changer. He's getting damn near 30. Devontae Adams getting 30. Brian Burns, the Giants gave him 150 for 3 years.
Christian Wilkins got what, 4 years, 110?
4 years, 110, 85 guaranteed. So for you to tell me in a league that's paying all these other guys, and I get that defensive line, like defensive tackles and linemen, like everybody plays an important role. But is Brian Burns that much more important than Derrick Henry?
Well, I mean,
is he
to answer your question? So to answer your question, Derrick Henry is 30. We'll see what happens on the downside of that. Brian Burns, on the other hand, is 26.
Yeah, but I can, if I wanted to, I could double team him all game long, and he's completely neutralized.
You can, but it opens it up. But it opens it up for Thibodeau. But he's also 12th in sacks and quarterback hits the last 5 years. So maybe he is that important to you, especially if you're a team like the Giants, But if you're Baltimore, he's probably not because you have Roquan Smith and others. Before a team like the Giants, he could be more important than Derrick Henry because Baltimore just came off the AFC Championship game.
And they didn't run the ball. So there you go. Yeah, I just think the running back number, I I think all skill position players right now, they should all be getting at least 10. Like these new, like it should be 10 million at least. 10, 11 million. That
I
should be a
mean, what
starting point
Mooney
for this
got
conversation.
13, right?
Mooney got 13, and I'm not sure where he got the 13 from. Gabe Davis got 13, and I was talking to a Bills fan in my office. He was like, that dude got paid off that one playoff game.
That's exactly right. So
He was
with
like,
that
people
being
don't realize
said,
that was 3 years ago. I was like, that is a long time ago.
so with that being said, Eberflus, the only head coach watching Bo Nix, like at the pro day.
Is he from Oregon or something? Maybe he just was like, yo, I'm taking my daughter wants to go there. And we're going to go spring break. I'll check it out.
But they
Because
did.
we all
They
know what
did.
you're doing at number one.
But they did give Jalen Johnson the money, as they should have. They brought in DeAndre Swift, to a team that already finished second in rushing last year, first the year before that. So whoever their quarterback is next year is going to have a nice safety valve. And for DeAndre Swift's morale, he doesn't have to worry about his quarterback sneaking his touchdowns from him.
Taking his touchdowns. I love Jalen, but I was like, if I was Swift and they called that, I would look in the huddle like, Jalen, really? Come on, man. I ran 47 yards on this drive. I can't get this last one.
Yeah.
Or like AJ Brown caught the ball at the 1 and they ruled a touchdown, then they overruled it, say he was down at the 1. It's like, all right, well, let me get this one back. Let me at least on first down. Let me run the ball. Because it's a guarantee.
Well, we're about to see how bad the Giants are, right? Because they're 9-16 without Saquon Barkley. With Saquon Barkley, they're 28-45-1. And they just brought in Devin Singletary. So unless they're going to upgrade everything else, there's going to probably be some more 25-48-1 on the way.
Yeah, I saw that. Did the Jets sign Tyrod Taylor?
Oh, I didn't even see Tyrod Taylor yet.
I think
I saw Austin Hooper just went to the Patriots, though.
I mean, who's going to be throwing in the ball? And that's like, for me, if I'm a free agent pass catcher, and
Tyrod going across town. Yep.
Yeah, you got me. I know everybody doesn't have a bunch of options, but I'm like, who's throwing the ball? Who's calling the plays? Who's throwing the ball in New England? Who's the offensive coordinator? Because they basically are running it back with the Black Bill Belichick. Like, I don't think that guy, he's a Belichick player, coaching protege. New England just traded away their starting quarterback. They have Bailey Zappi, who might not even been on the contract. And I'm going there because they got the 3rd pick, and who knows what they might do with that pick? Because Marvin Harrison should be sitting there at 3. If they don't draft a quarterback, and I'm a tight end, who's throwing me the ball? And not like Hooper's had a lot of productive years recently. Ever since he left Atlanta, I don't really think he's had that many
they still have
years.
Hunter Henry, too. They re-signed him as well, So I know that, the Bears, like, I don't want to think that they're blowing smoke, but the way that they're handling this Justin Fields situation almost makes me wonder, are they going to keep him?
I just think that they probably are. I think they're being greedy. You don't have the leverage because everyone knows you're drafting Caleb Williams, even if you don't really want to. In theory, because hindsight's 2020, we'll use revisionist history. You pass on Deshaun Watson, and realistically, you could be like, yo, the ACL tears scare me. That is an honest thing you can say in your room, in your draft room. But Mitchell Trubisky played like 12 or 13 games. And you picked him. Not only did you pick him, they moved up from 3 to 2 with San Francisco. And San Francisco wasn't taking a quarterback. Mm-hmm. They gave up draft capital to go from 3 to 2.
They were scared somebody else was going to do it.
Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes went after Trubisky. So I think they butchered that so badly, so recently that they're just gonna just take Caleb Williams.
Maybe that's who Carolina's trying to be.
The new Chicago?
Yeah, the new Chicago. But so I figured Washington's gonna stay put at 2.
You don't think they're gonna go down and get McCarthy, like go down to 8 with Atlanta?
That's what I've heard on DC radio. That's an idea that is floating around there. But I don't think so. I think that is Drake May. That's what I think.
Sometimes the answer is so simple. I think you
try to be the smartest person in the room and you screw yourself.
Yeah, just sometimes it's like, listen, I'm gonna take the 6'5", 220-pound
Minnesota's got to move up, right? Minnesota's got to try to move up because they brought in Sam Darnold. Unless they're going to keep Darnold and Dobbs, but I don't think that's the move. You got some team out there is probably going to, I would think somebody out there might grab Ryan Tannehill.
Let me pull the draft. Let me pull the draft order up real quick.
Because you got Denver still out there with Jarrett Stidham.
But Denver's at 12.
Yeah, so they would have to move. So between them and Minnesota, I would think one of those two teams are going to move up. I think that they are more likely. Minnesota's more likely just because, Kirk Cousins is gone now. And so I don't think you want to roll. You already got Justin Jefferson asking out to some degree. I don't think you want to start your season with Sam Darnold.
So if we just look at it on face value, Chicago at 1, quarterback.
Washington.
So Caleb Williams, Drake May, New England, Jay Daniels.
Possibly, but they're a wild card because they do wild things. Like, you know what I mean? Belichick is gone now. So you would hope that they just do the right thing and take Jaden Daniels. But
we'll go with quarterback just because they traded Mac Jones.
I can see New England trading down and doing something like Malik Neighbors or something. Like just something wild like that.
The fact that they traded Mac Jones away makes that position a clear-cut need. So I'm going to say just be the smart person and pick quarterback. Okay. Now, is it Jane Daniels or do you get the JJ McCarthy hype and you take him third?
Right.
And we'll see who goes to whose pro day.
Then you got Arizona at 4.
That's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, and then you got I believe the Chargers at 5.
Chargers at 5. Maybe
Giants at 6. If I remember correctly.
Giants. They have their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I don't know if you. So we got 3 quarterbacks so far.
Yeah.
Tennessee has their quarterback.
Yeah.
Atlanta has their quarterback. Chicago
but Atlanta could
trade down with Minnesota
and get like a Penix or something because Kirk Cousins, looking at that deal, they could get off of him in 2 years if necessary.
I'm not taking a quarterback. I'm not taking a quarterback to wait behind a guy I just pay $180 million to or $100 million to.
Right.
With 8, at 8 when I can get at that point we're looking. Do the Giants take Neighbors at 6?
Possibly. That's a good move for them, or either him or Dunze. And then you got
does Tennessee take a Dunze or they take an offensive lineman because they got a young quarterback?
I think they go offensive
Joe Alt goes off the board.
Yes, I think that's Joe Alt. Then I think if I remember correctly, Chicago's number 9.
Chicago's 9. So if Atlanta goes wide receiver, then if I'm Chicago, I'm trading out of 9 because I can't get one of these top 3 wide receivers because I think they're all gone by then. The Jets aren't taking a quarterback. So I think at 11, I think JJ McCarthy could fall right in your lap if you're Minnesota.
Possibly.
I don't know who other than Denver and Vegas. I don't see another team after Minnesota that would jump up with the Jets at 10 to take a quarterback.
So here's a question.
Minnesota's not going to let you jump to 9 because it's in division. I'm not letting you get your quarterback off of
What do you do what do you do if you're New Orleans?
I think
Like
New Orleans, you ride with the fact that you have a veteran quarterback and you draft pieces.
injury
You
prone
draft.
veteran quarterback,
I don't think Derek Carr is that injury
and,
prone.
and and you got Jameis gone now.
You can pick up a Brian Hoyer type, not necessarily him, but like one of these journeymen. You know, you can go get Davis Mills or something like that to get the backup. Seattle, I don't think
They would trade up to do it per se, but Geno's in the second year of that 3-year 105.
There you go. You feel a need.
Because they got the running back room squared away. They got the receiver room squared away.
I don't like using a first round pick to shore up a potential quarterback that won't be here next year.
But think about
especially
it like
when I'm in the middle of the first round.
If you're Seattle, you have Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. You have Lockett, Smith and Jigba, and DK. You know, you have both your corners you got already. So, you know, unless you need a linebacker, because Bobby Wagner, you know, is a little long in the tooth, if you will.
I would back up that position.
So maybe you get Peyton Wilson. Maybe you get Peyton Wilson out of NC State right there.
Because what you could do there is like, if I draft the linebacker, I can put different packages in and effectively utilize this linebacker I drafted in the first round. Unless you get one of these Michael Vick hybrid quarterbacks and you can put a play package in for him, there's nothing I could do with this guy. Take 16 overall and he's just sitting behind Geno. Like, nah, I'd rather, if I'm gonna get a quarterback to sit, I get a third round guy, I get a fourth round guy to sit, and just get like a veteran backup because they're always available. The
problem is that the draft,
you get Carson Wentz to be your backup.
But I think that's the problem is that the draft isn't that deep. You know, like you got Michael Pratt in the third round possibly, and then after that maybe Spencer Rattler, and then once you get past Rattler, there's not much left.
Yeah, according to the projections. But if you you just like, you know what, there's a quarterback out of, let's say it's a quarterback from, I don't know, give me a school, Montana State, 6'4", 220. All right, numbers aren't great, but let me bring him in as a fifth round guy, see if he can hold the clipboard, see if he can learn from Geno, because Geno's a big quarterback, big pocket guy with a little athleticism. Let me get something like that. But I wouldn't use a first round pick on him, especially when I'm in a division that I need to compete every week. The Cardinals have an opportunity to make some real good moves because Kyler Murray's back. They seem to kind of settle that relationship. Their defense played very well. They ran the ball great. Like, I mean, when they beat Dallas, I had picked them in my survival league, and they ran the ball for like 200 yards.
For James Conner. There you go.
Yeah. Terminator.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I think between 11, 12, 13, if Atlanta takes a wide receiver at 8, the third one, which is probably gonna be Roman Dunze.
Which I don't know if they do what they do, because I mean they still got Matt Collins too, right?
I believe so, but if you want to, like I said, if you want to make the splash, I'm like, listen, we're going to go greatest show on turf. We got 8 or 9 home games. We're barely selling out. Like, we need to do something. I think the defensive lineman, I think Dallas Turner would be great there, but I'm not sure, like, what an edge player.
Well, especially knowing that they wanted to kneel, you know, so that definitely works out.
Yeah, it works out, but in the same sense, is like, you still need the great defensive tackle play.
So where do you think
defensive edge?
I like how this turned into a draft conversation, but
well, it's the free agency kind of leaves. Okay. Now this team has gotten us in free agency. This is what they probably will draft.
Where do you think we see our first running back?
Second round.
Nobody in the first round?
I don't think so, because I don't think people value the position. Maybe Kansas City, but I think Kansas City was so depleted or they just didn't have the playmakers at wide receiver. I think they're likely to make a wide receiver move. Maybe Tampa Bay. They were like dead last in running for the last couple of years, but the reason they're dead last in running is because they don't make they don't make running back priority. So it's like drafting one is irrelevant if you're not going. They were like last in attempts, last in yards per carry, yards per game.
Cincinnati picked up Zach Moss, so they could get a running back. They probably need another one behind him. I'm looking here.
Buffalo probably should get a running back.
Well, no, they got James Cook last year or 2 years ago. So he was the fourth leading rusher this year. So like maybe Dallas at 24 gets Mr. Texas Kennedy Brooks. I mean, why do I keep doing that? Basketball player Jonathan Brooks. As I'm looking here,
out of Texas.
Yeah, maybe they grab him. Yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah, so Dallas, Tampa Bay.
Unless Kansas City grabs my guy out of Florida State. Yeah, that's probably it.
If they're not going to bring back Edwards-Helaire, then I could see them potentially. But like I said, they just lack playmakers at the wide receiver position. I can see them not necessarily getting Worthy in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're like, you know what? We could probably get one of these running backs in the second round. Let's just grab this guy and see if we can get him on some deep over routes.
Yeah, because I think it'll go Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, Blake Corum. I think those will be your top three in that order. And then after that, it becomes a crapshoot of like, do I believe in Audric Estime and so on and so forth.
But let's see. Kansas City they got the one.
Because obviously they still have Pacheco.
Just trying to see who has multiple picks in the second and third rounds. Atlanta has a couple third round picks. Kansas City has one.
So I think that's where we go. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to be the first back off the board. Maybe Dallas, like I said, maybe Dallas. They're the only team that I can look at right now that truthfully needs a running back. Maybe the Chargers, if you don't buy Gus Edwards as because even in Baltimore, you still had Justice Hill. You had other players. It wasn't just him. Like he might have been the leader, but it wasn't just him. So maybe you get another back there. They do have Joshua Kelly. So I guess it just depends on how Harbaugh feels about him. But you could trade back, from 5. And maybe that's another threat for somebody to get a running back. To get a quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. I think free agency has definitely been interesting. The moves and the lack of moves. Justin Fields still it's such a weird topic that they haven't made a move with him
and we still got to see what's going to happen with Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson because there's rumors out there.
I think Jefferson's out of Minnesota. Justin Jefferson's out of Minnesota. I think it's a matter of just waiting it out because you're going to give me this deal that's going to be probably crazy, $27 million at least. He's probably going to want somewhere in that range. He's going to want at least $25 million over 3 years, 4 years, so $100 million. But you don't have a starting quarterback to throw him the ball,
right?
So you're in the front office like, do we give this guy $100 million and we don't have a guy that can get him the ball, or do we, trade him? Do we send him down to Arizona? Arizona has 3 third-round picks. Do you take their first and a couple of their thirds?
Justin Jefferson and Marvin Harrison Jr., huh?
No, you'd have to probably get 4. You'd have to negotiate, give us number 4 overall pick, and we'll give you Justin Jefferson. Because if you're Arizona, you're looking like I'm getting the player that I want Marvin Harrison Jr. to be.
Right.
So it's very similar to what A.J. Brown in Tennessee did. Tennessee just happened to draft a guy that didn't live up to what
that came in out of shape and was passing out during camp.
Yeah. I think he just was sick. We'll go with that. We'll say he was sick. But So yeah, I think the free agency market this year, because if we saw if you look at how the season played out last year, Kansas City wasn't considered the best team for any part of the year. I think even when they were like 6-1, they were winning games 24-20, 24-17, 24-14.
Right.
And I think people had Philly as the best team, they had San Francisco up there, then they went on their little streak. So I think the league is pretty wide open. I think that's probably one of the benefits. That's why it blows my mind that teams stay at the bottom like Carolina. It's like, yo, it's set up for you to immediately turn your team around.
Right.
Like the year you lose, they give you opportunity to turn it around, and you gave away those picks.
NFC South, man. NFC South. Just never know. It's like a box of chocolates.
AFC South, Houston came out and won the division. So like the league is set up for you to turn it around.
Right.
So
unlike the other major league around here.
NBA is basically like, listen, you better hope these shots fall because nothing else is in place for you to succeed.
Yeah. So yeah. But that's the early free agency period, ladies and gentlemen. He is the even killed Mr. Logical. I am
Absolutely.
the Unorthodox 2-5. We'll be back on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Probably with some more free agency. We'll see what's popping in the sports world. And Jason Tatum is not the MVP. Love you, America. You know what I'm saying? You have a good night. We'll see you in a few days. Peace.